Hey guys, this is Nwando here, and I am finally making this video where I answer some questions that people frequently have for me. Questions like, do I have a Serbian boyfriend or a Croatian boyfriend? Is that why I'm so obsessed with these countries? Why am I learning Serbian? Of course, biggest question, why do I have this obsession? So I'm finally gonna answer all of these questions in this video. So if you want to hear some random dumb American girl just talk about herself, this is a video for you. So grab your coffee, your Xanax, your Rakia, whatever you need to chill the fuck out for the next 10-15 minutes. But yeah, just get to know me a little better. Okay, so the two biggest questions that I get the most are, why am I so obsessed with the Balkans, or specifically, why am I so obsessed with Serbia or Bosnia or Croatia, depending on the person asking me the question. That question is going to have the longest answer. I think I'm going to save it to last and just answer a few more questions that I get frequently before I get to that question. Oh my god, it's so hot in my room. I'm like sweating so much. The other big question that I get all the time is, do I have a Serbian boyfriend or a Croatian boyfriend or a Bosnian boyfriend? Nobody really asked me if I have a Macedonian boyfriend. Why aren't people asking me that? Maybe I have a Macedonian boyfriend. So I'm going to answer the boyfriend question first. Ja sam sama, which means in Serbian language, Croatian language, Bosnian language, whatever you want to call it, whichever one you speak, depending on which country you're from, that just means I am single. Single, which is the way to be. I have dated a Serbian, I don't know if it was dating. I think it was not that serious. I did have a romance, I guess you would call it, with a Serbian tennis player in my past. Tennis players get a lot of ass, they get a lot of girls in every single city, and by no means was that like a serious relationship. It was like a 4-month long distance romance type of thing. That's not the reason I discovered the Balkans. So I am single. I'm going to be in the Balkans next month, and I can't wait because there is a boy or two that I can't wait to see again. But that being said, a boy has nothing to do with why I'm obsessed and in love and passionate about the Balkans. Oh my god, guys, it's so hot in my room. I just want to answer the other two questions that people have been asking me lately, trying to deduce why I'm so obsessed with the Balkans. A few people keep asking me if I'm a spy. Bitch, please! If I was a spy, that would be the greatest job in the world, because the United States government would be paying for my airline ticket, paying for my Airbnb, paying for my food to go and travel to the Balkans. Like, bitch, please. If I was a spy, I would not tell you, because that would be the greatest job ever. Other people have asked me, do I have family in the Balkans? Do I look like I have family in the Balkans? No, I don't have family in the Balkans. That's not why I'm obsessed either. It's not something like I'm like a quarter Bosnian or something. I am not someone who like has like a grandfather from like Bosnia or Serbia or something. I wish I did, because then my parents would be making burek instead of really spicy rice. So the next question that I get all the time is, where do I live? I live in the United States. I live in a state called Maryland. It is 3.5 hours south of New York. I live in a suburb called Columbia, Maryland. It's 40-ish minutes away from Washington, D.C. Why am I learning Serbian? Why am I learning Serbian and not... Why am I learning Serbian instead of like Croatian or Bosnian, even though they're all like kind of the same thing? I mean, it's the truth. They're the same. They're just regional variations on the same language. Oh my god, so many people are gonna dislike this video now. Anyway, whatever, dislike me. Dislike me! Okay, so why am I learning Serbian? I'm learning Serbian because I plan to live in Serbia very soon. So I would stay tuned to this channel, because I think things on this channel are going to change very soon. Okay, so what's next? So just gonna answer 3 more questions before I get to the big one. Why am I so in love and passionate and obsessed with the Balkans? So next question is, I get this quite a few times, what is my favorite country in the Balkans? And I have to say, I don't have a favorite country in the Balkans, which maybe might seem weird to people, because I think I make a lot of videos where I sing in Serbian language or I speak Serbian. And again, that's because I'm planning to move to Serbia, but I really do love all of the countries almost the same, and that's because I have a similar experience in all of the countries where I meet amazing people in all of the countries, I make lots of friends in all of the countries, drink lots of raki in all of the countries, always hike amazing mountains, and I always get invited to really cool parties, and yes, it's a similar experience in all the countries, but they're all different enough where I feel like each country has its own special thing that its neighboring country doesn't have, and for that reason it's hard for me to say like, oh, I have a favorite. But my favorite cities and my favorite like places that I've been to in the Balkans would be Belgrade and Skopje. Another question that I get a few times is, do I make money by performing when I travel? No, that's not how I earn money to travel. My travels have basically been funded by good old-fashioned saving your damn money. And last question I'm gonna answer before I get to the big question. What languages do I speak? Obviously I speak English. I'm American. I studied French for 8 years, so I can speak French, but I'm not fluent. And then I can speak Spanish because I've traveled a lot in Spanish-speaking countries, but I'm not fluent. Of course, now I'm learning Serbian, so hopefully this time next year I'll be like, I'm fluent in Serbian. Okay, so now to answer the big one. Why am I so obsessed with the Balkans? I was thinking of making a video just answering this question because it's not an obsession or an interest or a fascination that I've developed like last year or in the past 2 years. Like, I honestly feel like I've had an interest in the Balkans almost my entire life. So I'm gonna try to answer this question quickly, especially because my camera is dying. I'm freaking out. So let's begin. And in order to begin, we have to travel all the way back in time to when I was a little girl. So ever since I was a young girl, I've always felt like a world citizen or a global citizen. That's always how I identified myself. And for those of you that aren't really familiar with the concept of a world citizen or a global citizen, that basically means that you're someone who feels like even though you have a nationality, you still feel like the world is your country. And even though I'm American, I'm from America, from the United States of America, I've always cared about all the other countries in the world. And I can't really explain it. I don't know how I became that way, but I've just always cared about all the other countries. Also, when I was a young kid, the war in former Yugoslavia was going on, and I don't want to spend a lot of time talking about that. As you notice on my channel, like, I never talk about that. That's some depressing stuff. I have so much compassion for everyone who lived through that. So again, I don't want to talk about it, but I just want to say that that was on TV all the time. I just cared so much about all of these cities and countries that were being mentioned on TV all the time, and I didn't know where they were. I didn't really understand it as a kid, but for some reason, all of these names of these places like Bosnia and Serbia and Belgrade and Sarajevo, like these names of these places in southeastern Europe just like stuck in my soul. It just like entered my body, entered my heart, entered my soul, and I never really like shook it. I never really could like forget about this part of the world. That care and compassion for the Balkan region, it just never really left my body. So flash forward to university. I ended up going to university in Washington, D.C. A lot of people travel to Washington, D.C. for university because they're studying some sort of international related topic, like maybe they're studying international relations, international economy. So the school I went to offered a lot of courses in international studies, and even though my major was journalism, which I later changed to psychology, I still had to take all these extra courses to kind of fill out your learning, and there were a lot of international subject matter courses. I took a lot of those courses, and in a lot of those courses you had to write research paper. The first course I took, I don't remember what it was, maybe it was like religion and European history or something. I don't even remember what the class was, but there was like a list of topics that you could write a paper on and how maybe religion played into the topic or something, and like everyone in the class was basically writing their papers about like the Middle East and like writing about 9/11, and like a bunch of other people were doing like World War II. But on the list I saw some books about former Yugoslavia, and I decided to do my research on former Yugoslavia. And then I had like 4 or 5 other classes, and I just kept doing my research about former Yugoslavia again and again and again. And I just became like this nerdy former Yugoslavia, like history nerd person. And again, I really hate talking about the war, so I'm not gonna sit here and like get into a discussion about former Yugoslavia. I'm not here to do that. But that's when this all like really kicked off, and that was like the beginning of what has led me to where I am now. After university, I was just like performing music and stuff. Didn't really have anything relating to former Yugoslavia or the Balkans really in my life. And then I started going to tennis tournaments and working at tennis tournaments. I'm a huge tennis fan. I would just meet a lot of tennis players, and I felt like I made like the best kind of acquaintances. I made the best acquaintances and friendships, I guess, with people that were from the Balkans. So that's when I started having like people from the Balkans in my life, and of course it doesn't hurt that they were like hot professional tennis players. And then, as I mentioned earlier, I ended up having a long distance romance with a Serbian tennis player, and I'm not calling it a relationship because again, it was not a relationship. I totally understood that he was traveling all the time. I'm sure he was meeting other bitches, even though he was telling me every night, Laku noć, dusha moja, all these things. I am sure he was like totally hooking up with all these other girls. I'd still call it a romance because I did fly out to see him and things like that, and he would pay for my plane tickets and things like that. But yeah, that time in my life was like a time in my life where I had like people from the Balkans in my social life. So before I was just like doing all this research about it in university, and then I had people in my social life who are from Balkan countries. After like the last time I visited this guy, it was just going nowhere after that, and we just like parted ways. So then for a few years, I had nothing relating to the Balkans in my life. I wasn't writing research papers, I wasn't hanging out with tennis players, I was just like performing music in the United States. Then I moved to Australia for a year, and then I came back from Australia. So this is 6 years ago now. I came back from Australia. What that did to me is the travel bug hit me. And when I came back to the United States, I was just like, oh my God, I need to keep traveling. So then I did a backpacking trip through Central America. And after that trip, I really realized how much I really enjoy traveling to places that I feel like aren't super touristy, that I feel like a lot of Westerners don't go to or don't know to go to. So I just really wanted to keep traveling like that. So two major things happened that have led me to this point. So one of them is that it was really important for me to travel to places that I felt like were not super touristy, where I felt like not so many Westerners know to travel to. The other thing, and this might sound really fucking random, but it's part of why I became obsessed with the Balkans again. So the other major thing is 3 years ago, in the summer of 2014, the World Cup was on. And I don't know about you, but I love football so much. Like, I love football so much. And every year I get into the World Cup. I feel like 2014 was especially important for me because I felt like that wasn't one of my best years, and the World Cup just brought me so much joy. So the World Cup was on. I always root for the United States, of course, I'm American. Then I always root for West African countries because my parents are from Nigeria, and so I always root for Cameroon, Ghana, Nigeria, Ivory Coast. And then I always root for a few European teams. I always root for Spain. So I was just kind of wanting another team to root for, a team that I felt like was an underdog, but maybe they still had like an outside chance. I really took a liking to the Swiss national team. They had an interesting recent history in the World Cup. The previous World Cup, they upset Spain, and they were ranked high. They consistently do well on UEFA Euro, so I just felt like they were an interesting team to root for, and I just liked the players on the team. So the more I learned about the Swiss national team, the more I learned that basically everyone on the Swiss national team was something that people in Switzerland call secondos. These are people who basically immigrated to Switzerland. They're an immigrant to Switzerland, or their parents immigrated to Switzerland, and they were born in Switzerland. So I was very just fascinated by that, and I soon learned that pretty much everyone on the Swiss national team comes from a family that's originally from a Balkan country. I just think it was really cool that, like, after all these years, after I did all that research in former Yugoslavia, that I kind of fell for this team that had all these Balkan players. Like, everything kind of came full circle, and my interest in the Balkans just like came back. It's like I woke up from a coma and I was just like, oh yeah, the Balkans. And I just started reading these books about the Balkans again, and I just became really passionate about it again. That tied with my desire to travel to countries that I feel like a lot of Westerners don't go to, made me not only care about the region again in terms of like wanting to learn more about it, but it also made me be like, hey, like I should travel there. And this may sound silly, but I had no idea how beautiful all of these countries in the Balkans were. When I like took the time and I actually Googled like traveling to Bosnia, traveling to Croatia, traveling to Montenegro, blah blah blah, I was like, oh my God, these are the most beautiful countries in the world. I am a huge mountain person. I love the mountains. I just think the mountains are so beautiful. Give me mountains overlooking small town rooftops any day and I'm a happy girl. When I really started looking into traveling to the Balkans, I was like, oh my God, like this place is like for me. It's just a bunch of mountains everywhere and like cute little towns in the mountains. Of course, I decided to travel to the Balkans. I traveled there for the first time in the winter of 2015. I have a video about this actually on my channel, so you can go watch that. The first country that I visited was Macedonia. The first 24 hours I was in Macedonia, I felt more connected to Macedonia and to the Balkans in that first 24 hours than I did to Australia in the entire year that I lived in Australia. And I'm not trying to talk shit about Australia. I just didn't feel like connected to Australia. You know, I lived there for a year. I lived in the United States my whole life, and even in the United States, I often feel like I don't truly feel connected to staying here, you know? But it's like in those first 24 hours of being in Macedonia, I was just like, I'm in love with Macedonia. I'm in love with the Balkans. I'm in love with the Balkan way of a life. I'm in love with the mountains. I'm in love with the food. I'm in love with the language. All of it combined, I was just like sensory overload of like all of the things that pleasure my senses. So after that trip, I went back to the Balkans last year. And yeah, I mean, after the trip I took last year, that's when I really was like, I really love the Balkans. My love isn't going away anytime soon. I need to do something about this. Maybe I need to move to the Balkans. Maybe I'm moving to the Balkans. Stay tuned to this channel. So yeah, that is basically why I'm obsessed with the Balkans. I think I've kind of said everything that I was thinking to say. I'm trying to think if I left anything out, but no. Okay guys, so that is it for this Q&A. I hope I answered a lot of questions that you guys have had for me. If you have any more questions, just let me know in the comments. I'll try to answer them. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Please subscribe to my channel. And if you think I should do another video answering more questions, let me know. So thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it, guys. And I hope that you have a wonderful day. Bye.